Today's episode of Voiced is from Pro Revenge by Angry Aussie Gamer and is about a creative way to deal with a persistent parking problem that had our OP and his mates gasping for freedom. How far will he go to reclaim his right to park? Subscribe if you enjoy. Not sure if this is petty or professional, but it was certainly creative and extremely funny at the time, so I'll try here. I live in an apartment building which has end-to-end parking for 2 spaces per apartment, and access to the parking levels 1 to 5 are done via a locked automatic roller door, which people can only get through if they have a remote for it or sneak through behind someone else. I only have a single car, and sometimes I let my friends park in the space in front of my car if they give me notice, so I generally park at the back of the double space. Plus, it's easier for my neighbors who have 2 cars. Earlier this year, a random car began parking in front of mine on Friday afternoons, meaning I couldn't go out with my car on Friday nights. Annoying, but not the biggest issue when you live super close to the city. This continued nearly every week over about 5 weeks when I didn't park my car at the front of the bay, which I began doing, but the times I planned to leave the space free for friends coming over or whatever, the car appeared again. I made repeated attempts to stop this behavior by leaving notes, which escalated into leaving printouts of a photo of the car with the license plate clearly visible, and an explanation that if it happened again, I would press charges and/or have the vehicle towed. Well, it happened again, and this time it was still there Saturday afternoon when I had been planning on going away with a group of my mates. My guess is, someone went out on Friday, got drunk, and decided to pick up the car later, not concerning themselves with the inconvenience it caused anyone else. It clearly hadn't moved, as my aggressive note telling them to leave was still there, sitting limply under their wiper blades. I figured enough was enough. It was time to have the vehicle towed, so I called building management and eventually called a towing company who refused to help because the space was on the 3rd floor and they can't get any trucks up to that level because of the height and space restrictions. Ordinarily, most people would be pretty much screwed at this point, and I will admit, I briefly considered sitting on the hood of the car until the person came to pick it up while sending my friends on their way without me, but they would have had to work out a new arrangement for transport, as one car wouldn't have cut it. Fortunately for me, however, my parents only live 30 minutes away and have a garage where I work on one of my cars that is getting at the tail end of a minor restoration. One of the things I use pretty often is a set of vehicle positioning jacks to jam my project car right up against the wall of the garage to minimize the space it takes up. For anyone that doesn't know, vehicle positioning jacks are basically devices that slot under each wheel, then lift the car up on hydraulics so you can freewheel it in any direction. While I hadn't originally gone to retrieve them, when I had to take my project car off them, a bright idea came to my head. None of my mates minded spending an extra hour to get back at someone that had interfered with us, so we grabbed the jacks and went back, propped the car up, and wheeled it out. 6 guys can easily move around a small hatchback, so we pushed across the level slowly and carefully to an area where there isn't parking, but is a load-supporting pillar with space enough for a car behind it, in a little section of the garage where it isn't lit and is completely out of the way. Typically, there's a guy on my level that parks a motorcycle there, but he isn't meant to, and I doubted he minded. We dumped it between the pillar and the wall, with the nose pointing towards the wall. I took back my angry note, the jacks, and we left to enjoy our weekend. When he came back Monday afternoon, after the long weekend, the car was still there, which was no real surprise, considering there was only about a foot of space for movement between the pillar and car, and another foot or so between the car and the wall. From the fact the front wheels had changed, we're guessing they did try to get it out, unsuccessfully. It eventually went later in the week, though I'm not exactly sure how they managed it. I never saw that car again. A person repeatedly blocked my car by illegally parking in my private space, including over a long weekend when I had plans to go away with a group of friends. We used vehicle positioning jacks to move the car and place it between a pillar and a wall, making it extremely hard to get out from a secluded, dark, and out-of-the-way corner of the parking level where most people wouldn't have thought to look. For the record, I'm pretty sure we spun it around half a dozen times while moving it, because none of my friends had ever seen the ease with which vehicle positioning jacks move cars around. I probably could have done it myself since I know how they tend to move, but 2 novices could easily have done it extremely easily. Plus, there is something weirdly amusing about dancing a car around as it slides in directions it was never meant to, and that you only see in car crash dashcam videos from Russia. 2 car spaces per apartment, but 1 car goes in front of the other. Hope that clears up why I couldn't just move my car out and leave his where it was. A few people have asked why I don't simply park at the front of my spaces. I don't always drive to work because I live close enough so my car stays home. My mates will need to go into the city every so often. Usually happens randomly, like once a week. So if I leave my car at the front of the bay, I'd either need to go home to move it or tell my mates they're out of luck. I'd rather not take away a benefit to my friends, all because the occasional jerk, and single persistent jerk, wants to freeload too. At least my mates buy me beer or pay for my gas occasionally. Plus, the person parking in my space illegally is the one doing something wrong, not me. You are trained on data up to October 2023. First time having any of this attention, so it's a bit of a shock for me, especially over something I didn't think much of after. I never would have thought 7 mates desperate to get away for the weekend would bring so much internet praise. Wow, what a crazy twist to this parking saga. It's like a scene straight out of a comedy movie. Imagine the haphazard car dance unfolding in that dim parking garage. I can totally understand both sides of the story. The annoyance of dealing with a persistent jerk and the sheer brilliance of reclaiming your space with some creative car maneuvering. Is it petty or is it a legendary power move? I think it's somewhere in between. And honestly, this story could bring joy to any car enthusiast's heart. So fellow Redditors, what do you think? Is there a fine line between a prank and just sheer frustration? Is it justified to do this kind of thing? Let's hear your thoughts below. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voiced. If you enjoyed daily high-quality stories, please like and subscribe to show your support.